What if I told you that your very existence began with a deadly race where millions perished and only one survivor made it through? A brutal survival story happened long before you ever took your first breath. It sounds like a dystopian movie, but it's not fiction. It's the truth of how life begins. From the moment your father's body produced countless microscopic warriors, a secret battle started inside the most hostile environment imaginable. Acidic barriers, impossible odds, and ruthless competition stood in the way. Yet somehow, against all logic, one single cell fought its way to victory. That one survivor was the reason you are alive today. This isn't just biology. It's the most incredible story you've never been told in this way. And once you hear it, you may never look at yourself or life itself the same again. Welcome to the Wellness Way, where we uncover the mysteries of the human body and reveal truths that challenge what you thought you knew. If you're ready for a journey that will shock you, inspire you, and maybe even change how you see yourself, then stay with me until the very end. Don't forget to subscribe to The Wellness Way so we can keep bringing you powerful stories like this one. When I first started learning about how life truly begins, I thought I had a decent grasp of the basics. The father contributes sperm, the mother contributes an egg, and together they form the foundation of a new human being. Simple, right? But as I dug deeper, I realized how oversimplified that idea was. What struck me the most was just how much work the father's body is silently doing every single day, long before conception even happens. It completely changed the way I see fatherhood, masculinity, and even my own existence. Here's the shocking truth. A father doesn't just provide a single cell at the right moment and then step back. His body is an around-the-clock factory, tirelessly producing millions of sperm cells every single day. Imagine that for a moment. Millions, not once in a while, but every day, every hour, every second. It's happening right now in men all over the world, whether they realize it or not. It's not just a small background process. It's one of the most relentless and consistent forms of biological labor that exists. And the irony is, most people never even think about it. The place where this miracle begins is inside the testicles, specifically in tightly coiled structures called seminiferous tubules. If you could zoom in, you would see endless rows of developing sperm cells, each at a different stage of growth. To me, it feels like walking into a massive training camp where recruits are being trained, drilled, and prepared for the most brutal mission of their lives. These cells aren't just born ready. They have to go through weeks of development before they're even capable of attempting the journey toward the egg. I can't help but admire that kind of preparation. It reminds me that nothing great ever comes without a process of discipline and endurance. But once these sperm cells are formed, the work doesn't stop. They don't just sit there waiting. They are moved into another structure called the epididymis, which I like to think of as swim academy. It's here that they mature, refine their skills, and get prepared for what's coming. To me, that's one of the most fascinating parallels with human life itself. Before any of us can step into our purpose, we have to go through our own form of training. We need time to learn, to grow, to be shaped by the challenges around us. The sperm's journey is a biological echo of the preparation we all face in life. What fascinates me even more is how invisible all of this is. Fathers go about their daily routines, working, mowing the lawn, fixing things around the house, completely unaware that their bodies are also engaged in a hidden marathon of creation. They may look ordinary on the outside, but inside they are producing life at a staggering rate. There's something humbling about that. It makes me realize that our existence is supported by countless processes we never see, never feel, and rarely acknowledge. And here's a perspective that shook me. Out of the millions of sperm cells produced every single day, only one might ever fulfill its ultimate purpose. One. Think about that. An entire army of microscopic lives exists for the chance that one will one day meet an egg. The sheer odds of it all make your very existence extraordinary. You are, quite literally, the result of a miraculous victory against impossible odds. And that realization made me stop taking my own life for granted. There's also something deeply symbolic in this hidden labor of the father's body. In society, we often celebrate mothers for their visible sacrifices, the pregnancy, the birth, the nurturing. And rightly so. But fathers often carry invisible burdens, and the biological story mirrors that reality. While mothers bear the visible process of creating and sustaining life, fathers carry a constant, unseen responsibility that sets the stage for it all. When I learned that, I started to appreciate the balance between the two in a whole new way. It's not about one doing more than the other. It's about both carrying different forms of weight, equally essential to the miracle of life. For me, this knowledge also raised questions about responsibility. If a father's body is constantly producing sperm, then the quality of that sperm matters. What affects it? Lifestyle choices, nutrition, stress, and health conditions can all impact the vitality of those microscopic warriors. It's not just about biology. It's about how choices ripple into the future. When I realized this, I thought about how many men might not even know that what they eat, how much they sleep, or whether they smoke could influence the very building blocks of their future children. That thought alone made me reevaluate how I treat my own body. The more I reflected on it, the more profound it became. Each sperm cell carries 23 chromosomes, half the genetic blueprint of a future child. It's astonishing to think that in those tiny strands of DNA lies the potential for eye color, height, certain talents, even the seeds of personality traits. Every moment, fathers are generating potential futures, countless possibilities, most of which will never come to be. That makes the one that eventually succeeds feel like destiny. And yet, there's also a humility in recognizing that life doesn't just happen because of biology alone. Timing matters. Conditions matter. Out of millions of chances, it still requires a perfect alignment of events for one sperm and one egg to meet. That sense of improbability has made me see life itself as a gift, not a guarantee. When I think back to my original assumptions that a father's role in conception was small, almost passive, I can't help but laugh at how wrong I was. The truth is, it's an epic story of relentless creation, of hidden labor, of endless preparation. It's a reminder that even in the smallest corners of biology, there are lessons about endurance, perseverance, and the unseen efforts that make life possible. So the next time someone dismisses the father's role in creating life as just one sperm, I'll know better. I'll remember the millions of cells that never made it, the tireless work of the body to prepare them, and the extraordinary odds overcome by the one that did. And I'll remind myself that my own existence, and yours, is nothing short of a miracle that began in the quiet, relentless labor of a father's body. When I think about the journey that sperm must take after leaving the father's body, I can't help but picture it as one of the most dangerous races ever designed. It's not a gentle swim or an easy path. It's chaos, obstacles, and the constant threat of annihilation. And the most shocking part is that this is where every single one of us began, long before our first breath, our first cry, or our first steps. We were part of this unbelievable competition for survival. The story begins at the moment of release, when millions of sperm are propelled into an environment that could not be more hostile. The vagina. To me, it feels like dropping untrained soldiers straight into a battlefield filled with toxic gas. The vaginal canal is acidic, intentionally designed as a barrier against invaders like bacteria or viruses. Unfortunately for sperm, they are seen as intruders too. Most will die within minutes of arrival. It's a brutal introduction, and it instantly separates the weak from the strong. And yet, even here, there is strategy built into nature. Before sperm even enter this hostile territory, the father's body has already prepared them for the fight. The seminal vesicles coat sperm in a protective alkaline fluid that neutralizes some of the vaginal acidity. Along with this shield, they're given fuel, fructose, a sugar that provides the energy needed to power their tails for the long journey ahead. It amazes me to think that the father's body equips them not just with life, but with armor and supplies. Without these, not a single one would stand a chance. But survival isn't just about having armor. It's about persistence. As sperm push upward through the vaginal canal, they face their next obstacle, the cervix. At first glance, it seems like nothing more than a small gateway, but it's guarded by thick cervical mucus that acts like a sticky net, trapping and filtering out many of the intruders. For the sperm that manage to get through, the mucus slowly shifts from being an obstacle to being a lifeline. During ovulation, it changes consistency, becoming more fluid and supportive, helping sperm move upward and even providing nutrients. It's fascinating. What begins as a barrier transforms into a guide. To me, that mirrors life itself. Sometimes the very challenges that feel like they're holding us back are actually shaping us, preparing us, or pointing us in the right direction. Once inside the uterus, the surviving sperm find themselves in a vast open chamber. I imagine it must feel like crossing into a massive, unfamiliar landscape after escaping the dangers of the battlefield. For the first time, there's room to swim freely, but it's also deceiving because the uterus isn't the final destination. It's just another leg of the journey, and while sperm may have escaped the harshest acidity, their exhaustion begins to set in. Many run out of energy and fall away. This part of the journey reminds me of endurance tests in human life, the kind where you've already overcome huge challenges, but the finish line is still nowhere in sight. The question becomes, who has the resilience to keep going when every part of you wants to stop? The next stage is perhaps the most daunting, entering the fallopian tube. For years I never questioned why it's named after a man, but when I learned the story, it struck me as ironic. This tube is the site of the greatest miracle of life, the place where sperm and egg meet, and yet it carries a name that feels almost disconnected from its true purpose. Regardless of its label, the fallopian tube is where the real battle reaches its climax. By this point, only a few hundred sperm remain from the millions that began the journey. They're battered, depleted, and surrounded by the bodies of those that didn't make it. It's a haunting image, but also a reminder of just how unforgiving this race really is. And yet, in the midst of this exhaustion, the drive to continue pushes them forward. Something deep within compels them to keep swimming, to keep fighting, even when every ounce of strength has been spent. That resilience resonates with me because it mirrors the very core of human survival, the ability to keep going when the odds are impossible. What's even more astonishing is that success here isn't just about speed. Sperm need to be strong enough to endure the acidic environment, clever enough to navigate barriers, and lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. It's not the fastest sperm that wins, it's the one that balances endurance, adaptability, and timing. That, to me, is one of the most powerful lessons hidden in this story. In life, victory doesn't always go to the strongest or the quickest, but to the one who combines persistence with the wisdom to adapt. Looking at this journey from a medical perspective, I can't ignore how much depends on the father's health. If sperm are poorly formed, weak, or lacking energy, the chances of survival drop dramatically. Factors like diet, exercise, stress, and even exposure to toxins all play a role. It's a humbling thought that choices made every day by men can influence whether their microscopic warriors even have a chance at this incredible journey. To me, that connects biology with responsibility in a profound way. It's not just about fertility, it's about the health of future generations. And then there's the bigger picture. Millions begin, but only a handful reach the final stage. Out of that handful, only one will ever meet the egg. That means every single person alive today is the result of a victory against staggering odds. I sometimes think about this when I'm struggling in my own life. If my existence began with that kind of miracle, if I am the product of resilience and survival against millions of competitors, then maybe I'm stronger than I give myself credit for. Maybe all of us are. The sperm's journey is brutal, but it's also inspiring. It's a reminder that life itself is built on persistence, preparation, and the ability to overcome impossible obstacles. And when I reflect on this invisible battle that took place long before I ever knew the world, I can't help but feel a deep sense of awe. My existence, and yours, was never guaranteed. It was earned in the most extraordinary way imaginable. While sperm are waging their desperate race through a battlefield of acid, barriers, and exhaustion, something equally remarkable is unfolding on the mother's side. It's a parallel story, one that is just as dramatic and filled with tension. For me, realizing this made the process of conception feel less like a one-sided struggle and more like a beautifully orchestrated meeting of two forces, both undergoing their own trials before they finally converge. Inside the ovary, a quiet competition begins every month. Several follicles, tiny fluid-filled sacs, start to grow, each containing a single immature egg. At first, it seems like any one of them could be the chosen one. But as the days pass, only one follicle usually outpaces the others, growing larger and stronger. The rest fade away. When I learned this, I was struck by the sheer intensity of selection that happens even before sperm arrive on the scene. Out of a dozen potential eggs, only one will typically survive to be released. And that single egg is the one that might meet the winning sperm. It's like nature is already narrowing the field before the race even begins. The process is controlled by a delicate dance of hormones, primarily FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, and LH, luteinizing hormone. These chemicals send powerful signals, guiding the ovary to prepare the egg and eventually triggering ovulation. Around day 14 of the cycle, a surge of LH causes the mature egg to burst free from its follicle. This moment, ovulation, is dramatic, even if we don't feel it happening. I like to imagine it as the egg finally stepping onto the stage after weeks of waiting in the wings. For that egg, it's now or never. But the journey isn't easy for the egg either. Once released, it doesn't land directly in the fallopian tube where sperm are waiting. Instead, it slips into the abdominal cavity, a space where it absolutely does not belong. If it were left there, no conception could occur. Worse, if a sperm did find and fertilize it in this area, it could lead to an ectopic pregnancy, a dangerous condition that threatens the mother's life. For a brief moment, The egg is adrift in an environment that could end its story before it ever begins. This is where the fimbriae come in, delicate, finger-like projections at the end of the fallopian tube. They sweep and beckon the egg inward, pulling it gently into the tube. When I picture this, I see it almost like a rescue mission. The egg, vulnerable and exposed, is gathered up and guided towards safety. Once inside the fallopian tube, it finally has a chance to meet the sperm that have been fighting so desperately to reach it. Meanwhile, back in the tube, the sperm are struggling. Out of the millions that began, only a few dozen may have survived to reach this point. They're exhausted, depleted, and surrounded by reminders of the ones who didn't make it. It's almost poetic. Both egg and sperm have endured their own version of struggle, sacrifice, and survival. And now, after all that, they are finally in the same place at the same time. When sperm first encounter the egg, it's not as though it immediately allows entry. The egg is protected by layers of cells and a tough outer shell. Dozens of sperm may surround it, beating their tails furiously, trying to break through. Most will fail, and yet it only takes one to succeed. The moment a single sperm penetrates the egg's defenses, a chemical reaction slams the door shut, preventing any other sperm from entering. In that instant, two halves of genetic material fuse together, 23 chromosomes from the mother, 23 from the father, and a new human life officially begins. For me, this moment is awe-inspiring. Think about it. Every one of us was once that fusion, that single cell carrying within it the blueprint for an entire human being. All of our traits, our potential, our existence were set into motion at that precise instant. It's humbling to realize that everything we are began as the result of one victorious sperm meeting one chosen egg. And yet, beyond the science, I can't ignore the symbolism. The egg's selectiveness, the sperm's determination, the incredible odds stacked against both, it all feels like a metaphor for life itself. We are not accidents. We are the product of resilience, timing, and the merging of two powerful forces. Every breath we take, every decision we make, traces back to that single, miraculous union. When I reflect on this, I also think about how fragile the process is. So many things could go wrong at any step. The sperm might fail to survive the acidic environment. The egg might not be released or might not be captured by the fimbriae. The chromosomes might not fuse correctly. And yet, against all those possibilities, here we are. The fact that life happens at all is, in my view, one of the greatest miracles we'll ever know. It makes me see existence differently. Instead of taking it for granted, I see it as something rare, something earned. The story of sperm and egg isn't just biology. It's a reminder of our origins, of the resilience built into us from the very beginning. And if life starts with that kind of struggle and triumph, then maybe we carry a piece of that resilience with us in everything we face. The meeting of sperm and egg is often described clinically in textbooks, but when I think about it, it feels like the most powerful story ever told. It's the story of two worlds colliding, of barriers broken, of unity achieved against impossible odds. And out of that union a new story begins. The story of you, of me, of every single human who has ever lived. When I step back and look at the entire story, the father's silent labor of producing sperm, the dangerous race through impossible obstacles, the egg's own journey of survival and selectiveness, I can't help but feel humbled. Life doesn't begin with certainty. It begins with risk, struggle, and the slimmest of odds. And yet, here we are, Every single person walking this earth is living proof that against overwhelming challenges, a miracle took place. For me, this realization changes how I view my own existence. I used to think of life as something that just happened, something automatic, but now I see it as something earned. Before I ever took my first breath, I was already the product of resilience, timing, and an unlikely victory. That perspective makes me appreciate not only the miracle of birth, but also the challenges I face today. If my story began with triumph against impossible odds, then maybe I already carry within me the strength to endure whatever life throws my way. It also makes me think about the balance between father and mother. Too often, society frames one as the hero of creation, while the other fades into the background. But the truth is, both stories matter. The father's constant invisible work and the mother's visible powerful role come together in perfect harmony. Without both, there is no story. That realization has deepened my respect for both sides of the human journey, reminding me to value the unseen just as much as the visible. So, what lesson can we take from this? To me, it's the importance of resilience and perspective. Life will always throw obstacles at us, acidic environments, closed gates, exhausting journeys. Sometimes we'll feel like we don't have the strength to go on. But the very fact that we exist proves that persistence is in our DNA. We are built from survival. That means each of us has the capacity to endure, to adapt, and to succeed, even when the odds seem stacked against us. In practical terms, this awareness shapes how I live my daily life. When I feel overwhelmed, I remind myself, I've already overcome the greatest race there ever was. When I doubt my worth, I remember that my existence is the result of a cosmic scale miracle. And when I think about how fragile life is, I learn to treat it with more respect, gratitude, and care. Now I want to ask you something. When you hear this story, does it make you see your own life differently? Do you feel, as I do, that your existence is more miraculous than you ever realized? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below so we can reflect together on what it means to be alive. And if this journey into the hidden miracle of life has opened your eyes or touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to The Wellness Way. Your support gives us the motivation to keep creating stories that inspire, challenge, and remind us of the incredible mysteries inside us all.